What's good, my fellow peasants? How you all doing? Well, it looks like it's happened. The DLCs have been cancelled. I'm sure you guys have seen the news at this point. And I'm just coming on a little bit fresh to cover it with non-4 o'clock in the morning eyes. I've only had a couple of hours sleep. But, oh, God, let's go. Just hold me. It was such a traumatising night. Let's go. Oh, God. Oh, wow. So I'm going to be taking this video as an opportunity to... go, let's go, bears. So I'm going to take this particular video to cover the DLC content being cancelled. Man, my brain's barely engaged. Went to bed, it's like 5 in the morning, but did I sleep? Hell no, my head has been whirring. There's a lot I want to articulate and say, but the first thing I want to say is that I'm actually kind of surprised. I really thought a great wave of people would take this opportunity to just get on the shitty negative bandwagon. But there's actually been quite a lot of nice solidarity amongst fans, and great job for that, guys. You know, there are some arseholes taking this opportunity with what's happened, you know, the 15 salters, the sea salters of yore. They're taking this opportunity to just sort of laugh and mock and say, haha, I called it, as if you called it. Get wrecked, FF fans, I feast on your tears. Fuck those people. In my opinion, anyone who takes joy from game cancellations, they be a wrong one. Don't take a moment to your mum. But to say on that, I know I do see why some people are kind of thinking it's good that these DLCs cancelled. I'm going to cover kind of both the good and the bad in this video. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm not going to do a full recap of what was in there. I'm sure you can easily find that on the news. But quick recap of what happened last night during the stream, which, I mean, even from the very start of it, I said this is going to go one of two ways. Supreme joy or supreme... what we have now. And that's just kind of the story of 15, has it not been? It's so polarizing, it's so one or the other, foot in, foot out. You know, even back to Versus days, this whole thing has just been going on for 12 years now. You know, Versus looked so good, has so more people compelled than I've ever seen a little 2-3 minute trailer ever managed to do. That first Versus trailer still has people to this day signing petitions, getting their hopes up that they're going to remake that. I think that's thoroughly quashed. Though not to say that they didn't actually do some kind of interesting Versus references, but I'm going to get onto that when I get into the real juice and meat of the Ardyn episode, the one that we're actually getting. But as for the other 2019 Season 2 content, 75% of it's cancelled. Episode Lunafreya is cancelled. Episode Aranea, which that episode Aranea was only kind of a 0.5. It wasn't actually going to be as big as the others, they said. And then finally, the episode Noctis, which was the grand alternate finale. Now, coming into this, I did say... I just want to make this very clear because a lot of people are calling me a hypocrite. I did say that this 2019 content... I weren't sure about it. I didn't know if it was the right move. Of course, I thought it was just going to get longed out, make people more exacerbated and exhausted. We've already got far too much content in the DLC universe. 15 universe. God damn, engage! Just flick this light on. There we go, that's better. Looking a little bit less hobo-y. God, the bag's under the ice. I did say, you know, with this grand alternate finale, I wasn't sure about that, and I haven't been sure about that. And it's funny considering I did loads of theories about alternate timelines. I wanted it. I love that concept. No, it's a prevalent theme in Type 0. That's kind of why I think I edged towards it. When they started hinting and referencing it at alternate stuff, I thought, Tabata, you did a phenomenal job with Type 0 in that regard. You know, because they can often become very convoluted and kind of, you have these alternate versions but they don't mean anything, and that's what I hate. I hate alternate versions that don't mean anything, and we had that with episode Ignis. You know, they reopened this chapter. I won't go into it, you know what happened in episode Ignis. They went off on a tangent with no context or explanation as to why, and it opened more questions than it answered. I kind of thought, okay, well, with this grand alternate finale, maybe that's going to give some context to that episode Ignis. Well, that's what I thought. That's what I speculated. And then they came out and told us, I remember it was about a year ago now, or just after episode Ignis, they said that they hadn't actually planned anything after episode Ignis, that all of this 2019 content, it was an afterthought after that, you know, planning DLC that late in the day. I really think stuff like this needs to be roadmapped far sooner, far earlier. planned far earlier. And I think that's just going to be the legacy of FF15 now, is that its production planning has just been shit. I mean, it's more than just production planning. This whole thing has just got to the most monumental sized joke of all time, and it hurts me because I really, for me, 15, and this is what I did last night, you know, after all of this news came out, I actually just went on the porch. It was night, obviously, the stars were out. I actually just listened to Somnus, and I actually just sat there having a smoke, you know, feeling the weight of that song all the way since back from Versus Day, and I kind of just drew a line that it doesn't matter what's happened here, it doesn't matter what fans are going to now say about 15, just like it didn't with 13 for me. You know, for me, 15 has such a deep place in my heart. 15 was more than a game for me since I was 14. I followed that game. This game allowed me to build a career. This game allowed me to connect with all you guys, all these fans, give me what I have now, and what this YouTube career has allowed me to do in terms of my own personal development, in terms of the freedom and choice that I have to be able to explore and evolve myself as a person, and that's definitely happened, and I have all of that to thank for 15. So that's the kind of level my love for 15 is. You know, it's been a cornerstone of my life at this part, and that's kind of what's really hard to now have it end this way. Although I wasn't in favour of this 2019 content, when it happened, I certainly got on board. Of course, you know, episode Lunafreya is probably the biggest blow. It's without a doubt the biggest blow. That's mostly the one thing. If they'd have cancelled episode Aranea, I don't think I would have been too bothered. Love the chick, but she's had plenty of stage time. She definitely got a really good position in episode Prompto. So I would have been happy with that. Even the Grand Alternate Finale, if they'd cancelled that, I don't really know if I'd cared about that, because that was a risky concept that I could easily have seen them falling flat on the face with. But episode Ardyn, episode Luna, those were the two main important ones. And it's still fantastic we're getting episode Ardyn, because so much backstory to be explained. What with Somnus, early Insomnia, King Regis, 100% the summons, which we didn't see anything in that trailer, but I'll cover that when I get to the episode Ardyn bit. So that's great, and I really hope that fills in a lot of the blanks, though honestly I've learned not to hold my breath with 15. It will choke you out. It will choke you out. But with episode Luna being gone, to me that's a ship sunk. That is a 12-year-long ship sunk that has transitioned through every drama imaginable, over from Stella, over from the trailers and what that showed us of Lunafreya, up to the promises that we had of what it would be, and what that ship would be. And I have really tried to engage and connect with this couple, and on my level, I still have that place for that ship, but it's a massive amount of conjecture on my end. It's almost, my mind is running to fan fiction levels, and I've secured all kinds of canonicity up here that isn't in the game, and all kinds of aspects of the relationship that they didn't show us, but I've kind of just filled those blanks in, and I said, yeah, that's how I feel about it. But of course, not everyone's going to do that, and no one should be expected to. So Lunafreya has been absolutely obliterated. That shit has just gone down, and yeah, once again, I've covered it recently. They showed more relationship traits with that random Terror Battle Sarah chick than they did with Luna, and it's really sad to say that might stay this way, but there is a little bit of good news. Actually, there's no good news. There's just silver linings in a very dark maelstrom, and that is that although they've cancelled this DLC, they may be considering other formats in which to show it, in which they plan to do it, and that's kind of a funny thing for them to say, considering that's what we originally heard. That's what we originally heard about episode Ardyn. They said, we're going to think of some other way to show it, and they actually suggested a manga. They thought they might do a manga. Now they told us it's a DLC, and now they've gone back full circle and kind of saying, yep, these other ones, we might show them a different way. Now, all of that aside, whatever they decide to do with all of that DLC, do I think there is a kind of a good side that they've cancelled this DLC? Yes, in the sense that it's been so drawn out at this point, and I'm going to be covering Tabata. I can 100% see why Tabata has decided to quit. When they said they were going to do 4 whole new DLC, sorry, with how long the Bro episodes took, with how long even the base game, this has been dev hell. And to get those many DLCs out, like the Luminous engine is just not refined enough. It takes so long for them to do anything. And I actually kind of started believing by the time we got to episode Ignis, which, despite my few niggles with its story, that was such a banging good episode. It really was. I mean, most of the Bro episodes really were great. I kind of had this belief that with that and Luminous Studios being created, which that seems to be tanking in the hole, yes, a 33 mil loss. I'll cover that when I get to the Tabata stuff. I kind of thought... Sorry, that dab hit me with so many feels. I've lost what I was just saying. Yeah, it's been so exhaustive for Tabata, and it feels like 15 has just been constantly the hamster on the treadmill. They've been grinding to get all of this content out from start to finish, and it just feels like pressure. Like all of this DLC, it just feels like pressure. Like when they're telling us about content coming out, and I just get this ominous feeling that this is going to be something that's just going to put way too much strain and weight on Square Enix. Well then, yeah, I kind of think it's good to take off that strain, take off that burden, and move on to something fresh. Now, I agree it's good that they can move on to something fresh, but a few too many people take that too far. I've seen some people say, oh, they've got this entire division holed up on this stagnant project going nowhere. Finally release them. That's not true at all. There is nowhere near, not even close, not even a smidgy-roo to the original 300 people that helped create Final Fantasy 15, as well as external companies. They've massively trimmed down the amount of people working on it. There's really not that many. I can't remember just how many they said there were, but I think it was saying like 75% were off at the point. That's like a year ago. So there's a very small number of people trying to work on these rather large DLCs with a lot of expectation. Luminous Studios ain't going well. So do I think that all of that's the reason it's been cancelled? 100% yes. I think at this point, Square Enix, they've started looking at the checkbook, they started looking at the balance, and realising that 15, although it's done well, and this is kind of the narrative they throw out, and of course all game companies do this, they want their shareholders to be confident, they want them to think the product's gone well. But from day one, I've been thinking, with how delayed this has been, with how many people for how long have been working on this, for the Kingsglaive movie, the advertising, it's racked up quite a bill, this game, to say the least. And the sales didn't hit 10 mil. I think they've only just crept over 8 mil now. I always thought there was going to be some sort of book balancing needing to be done at some point. Now, whether that could be the 33 mil loss at Luminous Studios, but it could also be a whole load of other things. I think probably the main reason this DLC has been cancelled, regardless of what they say the reason for it is that they've looked at the book and they've said, no, 2 years out from the original game's release, these DLCs aren't going to sell the way we want them to. Which is kind of ridiculous considering they announced this after episode Ignis. So I would have thought that they would have looked at how well the Season 1 pass sold, and that was the reason why they went in for the Season 2. Something has clearly changed since then, but then it could also just be they thought the DLCs would be easier to create than they are, because these DLCs are using a lot of other characters. And a lot less recyclable content. And we certainly saw that with episode Ardyn. We have a swanky new looking Insomnia, new character models, and a whole lot of fresh new content has had to be created. And they certainly have to do that episode Luna, and I think that while it sounded good on paper at first, the more they've got into it, the more they've been shit the bed. That ain't gonna work, we ain't gonna recoup our money on that. So from a business perspective, I expect there's a whole mix of reasons like that. But in terms of what you've done now to the Square Enix, to the Final Fantasy fanbase Square Enix, honestly, I can't see many fans being able to move from for a long while. Like this has hurt the franchise's reputation, as if 15 wasn't already bad enough. But just look at how ridiculous, so mind-blowingly ridiculous, the reputation. If 15 hasn't got the worst reputation as one of the worst dev hells of all time, well, I'd kind of like to know what is. I know we had like Duke Nukem Forever. I'm sure there's been some other titles. No, even the original 14 was a massive shitter. But in terms of the longevity and the drawn-out drama, I think it's going to be very hard to find any other game that has matched 15. Because, I mean, really let this settle in. We have had, 12 years ago, a trailer for a game called Versus 13, which then never came out, got cancelled. The director then, Nomura, got dropped or resigned, whatever it is. And I'm going to go into whether Tabata has been dropped or resigned, because it could be either one. But game got cancelled, director got dropped, and we have a new director who has to pick up all of this crap, all of this bullshit, get it back on track. He does that all the way up until the DLC stage, in which we then have another cancellation, and the director leaves again. Oh, and we do have 2 new directors coming onto it, but... It feels like some sort of Alice in Wonderland rabbit down the hole. All these directors getting brought on, cancelled, then dropped. I mean, it feels like something out of a King Henry VIII epic. Divorce beheaded died, divorce beheaded survived. And I've just got to think, this new director who's doing this new content, is he the survivor? Well, Henry's last wife, she certainly survived, but she had to put up with a manky, gross, fat, gout-infested oath of a man, and that's kind of how 15 feels at this point, you know. oh my goodness, Pezzers. They should never have announced it. That's all there is to it. They should never have announced this DLC content on such shaky grounds. But okay, just draw a line under it. Hopefully they do stick with what they said, and that they're going to bring out some sort of other format in which to show the Luna episodes, or what they had planned for it. Hopefully that does happen. That's just not more Square Enix rhetoric. But there's a lot of other good content in there, I've got to say, although that's pretty much all the worst out the way. Or the worst of my feels from that stream out the way. There was some pretty good stuff in there. You know, the episode Ardyn did look great. The FF14-15 collab, Mikoti's in Luminous Studios engine quality looked phenomenal. There's also going to be an anime for episode Ardyn, which that was really interesting. I'm liking that. That means that what we are going to have with episode Ardyn is going to be very well supported. At least I hope. You know, it's going to be double backed with an animation of some sort. We also do have the comrades expansion, which, just to clear up what that is, because there's a lot of people confused. So we had Comrades, which was pegged to the original game. Okay, you had to have the original game to play Comrades. I don't know if that was what caused a lot of the queuing issues. There was a lot of buggy issues in the queue. They're now releasing Comrades as a standalone, so it's going to be separate, it's going to be free, which again, I don't know why you keep doing this, Square. They keep doing it, and I suppose it works to a degree, but not really. Like, they keep cancelling stuff or not delivering the products that they promise, and then they just kind of throw something at us free really quickly, just kind of fucking consolation prize in the hole. Oh, fucking ginger. I've got to get away this ginger. I've been masochisting on it all night. Yeah, they announced the Comrades expansion, and that's going to have 10 new bosses. Now, it's not actually going to be 10 new bosses. It's going to be 10 of the hardest, most difficult bosses from the series, from what we fought. So like Cerberus, like Omega, like that Lakshmi, Marilith, Snaky Wench, her. Some of the Lucii Kings, and some other bits. Now, of course, that I'm highly expecting that still could be multiplayer. I'm actually kind of more excited for that, because although Comrades was pretty good, I wasn't entirely drawn in by the experience of it. You know, there was a lot of issues, there was a lot of polish missing with it. It was a good DLC, but you know, little things like Demon Slayer Iris that they missed off. You know, I don't think they set it in the 10-year darkness period at a really compelling point. But the ending was certainly good, what with the summons and whatnot. But what I hope is that with this being a standalone, that the online functionality, the connectivity is actually going to be tailored to the job. And hopefully we can actually get into queue timers better, sooner. Though, do I actually see many people playing it? I don't actually see many people playing any of 15 2 years out. And that's the thing. Why did you do this content? The whole idea of a Season 2 DLC pass, it was ludicrous from the start. We're living in a different age. You know, we're living in an age where we have all the media and games and DLC and content at our fingertips than ever. Gamers' attention spans aren't that long. And despite the hardcore fans, no one else was going to be playing it. There's just too much for other people to move on to. And that's the thing, you should have been aiming this at the hardcore fans, because those are the only ones to be playing it. And I think that when it comes to hardcore fans, you need to value things like the story, characterizations, the relationships, the plot holes. You know, typically the things that will go over the casual gamer's head. that they won't really care about. They're not going to dive that deep. And they're not going to notice most of the holes. And that's the thing, I don't feel like it's been tailored the right way. It could well be the case, and maybe this is actually a blessing. Maybe that DLC content wouldn't have been that good. It would have been expensive. Maybe it would have just left me even more salty when that came out. And that's all I'm after, Square, at this point. I'm just after closure with this, because a lot of people say, how do you feel about 15 pairs? Where is it in terms of your favourite Final Fantasy? And I say, I don't actually know yet, because the thing's not been fully finished. Until I know how the story is left off. Who's messaging me? Is it Tabata? Oh shit, it is. Oh god, he's been miserable all day. Alright, 2 seconds, just got to reply to this. Yes, on my way. Tab will bring the bong. Alright. Because you're gonna need it, my boy. You're gonna need it. Yeah, and it's just sad that it had to end this way. Do you know what I mean? Like having it was such a sad stream, and you could see it in the presenters' eyes. Not the presenters, they're not presenters. The directors and the Tabata's right-hand man. You could see just how bummed out they were. And the second that stream started, I thought, oh Jesus, where is this going? And it's just been all round so rough on both the people working on it as well as the fans. Like, we have been put through the grinder at this point, and the frustrating thing about it is it's also unnecessary. The frustrating thing is about it is, at its core, 15 is a beautiful game with a beautiful emotion and feel and vibe to it and infinite potential. And that's the thing, so many people have said, no, 15, it had all the right pieces in place to be a masterpiece. It's just been shit like this that has completely taken it the other way and made it one of the most hard to follow experiences, and yet at the same time one of the best for me anyway. I love this game. I can't wait to replay it, because all I have to do with me is lucky. All I have to do is go back to my final stream of FF15, that final one, just watch it again, see what my emotion was there, and feel that is still very much my emotion. And when those credits roll, I remember saying that was all worth it. That was all worth the way this game was so beautiful. I was just in floods of everything, piss, shit, and tears. I thought I came away really satisfied. I was thinking, honestly, if you'd have drawn a line at the end of that, I would have actually come away very happy. I would have, 15 would not have been soured in any way. And that's why it just takes, and that's why I've not been doing many 15 videos as well. Man, I'm rambling as hell. I'll round this out. That's why I've not been doing many 15 videos during this really tumultuous time. That's why I've not been trying to do theory crafting on stuff like the 2019 content, because I got burnt by that the first time round. What I expected as a game, what I expect in terms of faithfulness, in terms of the plot holes not being there, and how much there was to explore in theory craft. I was expecting that from a Final Fantasy. And that's the thing, that expectation is there because of previous Final Fantasy games. A lot of them had that depth, a lot of them had that beneath the surface stuff to explore, but unfortunately with 15 it just didn't. They really did do what they said, and what Tabata said is that they wanted to show this in a simplistic way, simplistically presented, and quote, that they didn't even want it to entirely make sense. They didn't have to make sense. That whole bullshit about, from Noctis' point of view. And it's been all that stuff let's kind of put it down. Once I decided to cut all of that out and stopped engaging in 15 in such an active way, because that's the thing, if you're so actively engaged, then you're burnt, and I'm sure there's many of you on the other side. I want you to just go down the comment section, keep it clean, don't be hostile, because a lot of people, they are really disappointed, they're really down in the dumps about this, and I kind of am as well. So don't be a dick, but I do want to know what you think in the comment section. But if I cut all of that, the moment I stopped engaging in 15 actively, and once again just stood on the porch, listening to Somnus, reflecting over all the memories, that's when the real heart and core of what 15 did for me and my passion for it, that's where it is, and that's just where I'm going to reside. And I will give this 2019 content a go, but honestly, I have no expectations. None. And that's sad, Square, because you were the kings, you were the giants, you were the guys who not only could you expect to write an emotional, fulfilling, incredible story and journey that was able to reach millions and millions of people from all genres of gaming, Like, you really made an influence on the JRPG scene. In fact, I doubt it would look as healthy as what it looks now without Final Fantasy. You know, all the Nier Automatas, Personas, Tales of Berseria, not to say they wouldn't still be fantastic. And that's the thing, when I look at these other franchises, they have so much energy to them. They have so much enthusiasm and so much hope. Whereas 15 at this point, it just feels like from the expectations we had of you, Square, we could have those expectations. Not only could we expect a good story, we could even expect a game yearly. Now what can we expect, Square? From this, what expectations can we have of you? What can we actually, whenever you release a trailer now, how can anyone be excited? You know, when we tie this into what you've done with the 7 remake it now, no, near on 5 years into dev, and the trailer's been out for 3, and there's still barely any news on it. What expectations can we have of you now, Square? When your games don't come out the way that you advertise them, when they don't even come out in the same decade that you announce them, when you show us content and DLC like this that at the drop of a hat can be just cancelled. And I empathise. I ain't gonna be that salty, entitled gamer sitting on his throne saying you should be doing this, you should be doing that. You know, I have no idea, and I don't think any of us does, about the true extent of the internal struggles. We've heard snippets, but I don't know the full weight of the issues. But when we just look at what other game devs are able to achieve, you are slipping, Square. That's hard for me to say, but it's just a fact at this point. After this news, you are slipping. This is not how any franchise should be treated, especially one as big as Final Fantasy, and the legacy that has. So there it is. I am done. I am done in every way. I'm done. Good night. Sweet Prince. Goodbye, everyone. There we go, guys. I will dive into episode Ardyn. I will dive into what we do have to look forward to. I think now, once that episode Ardyn comes out, which I think is March 2019, I think it is kind of a blessing. You know, we can finally move on. We can finally draw a line under it. You know, the last point I'd bring up is with the 15 and 14 collaboration that they've announced. You know, there's a lot of work going into that, and I kind of said it on stream when I first saw it. I said, hold up. So you've cancelled 3 of these DLCs that the fans wanted, even though I think most people know that Square Enix weren't going to make much money on it, and instead you're now doing this 14 one, which is guaranteed to make you a shitload of money. So I kind of thought that at first, like, have they just swindled us, taken off those DLCs for something that's going to be more profitable, you know, greedy schmecks decision. Well, I don't think that's the case. Yoshida did say on the stream that it had been 2 years in the planning, that he went to Tabata 2 years ago and said, no, we should collab our 2 games. So I do think that is genuine. I don't see anything nefarious in that. But let's just move on. Square Enix, I swear to God, if you don't move on after this March, I'm just anticipating that they won't, because with things like a 15 and New Empire, that Polish game that made them 300 million profit in 1 year, if they don't move on after it and they find some other way to exploit 15, which they've been doing massively, that's when Chaos Pez is really going to engage. You know, move on to the next thing, because you know what I miss and fans miss when we have a new game to look forward to, when we have something new and fresh and we speculate over the story and who these characters are and we get to see them. Like the build up to a game, and I'm sure most of you agree, the build up to a game has more excitement and anticipation than post game DLC content will ever have. Ever. Just full stop, even if the game was phenomenal. For me, it will always be a more exciting period when we lead up to installments. So I'd much rather we just go back to a stage. And I know we'll never go back to a stage where we have a game yearly, but I think 5 yearly is at least a pretty good metric to aim for. If we have a game 5 yearly rather than these really longed out, I'm going to use the word traumatic, DLC experiences. Nah. Move on, Square. Let's move on to 16. Let's move on to 7 Remake. Before that, obviously. Let's do 7 Remake, but I really hope they get the team in place to then do 16. God, I said I was going to sign out this video. I've got so many thoughts. Just move on to the next one. But the one other thing that I'm pretty pissy about is, and I was annoyed about it when we heard about it, because the Luminous Studios production, though they've lost money, they did say in that stream that they are still going to be pushing for it, and that they're looking massively to capitalise on Luminous Studio in this new AAA game that's, quote, twice as big as 15. That's an old quote. probably fucking bullshit by the time it comes out. This unknown AAA game that they're working on, which we do know isn't a Final Fantasy game, they've said that they're going to take everything they've learned, everything they do, and going to try to pump it and get it right in this. And from day one, that was the confirmation of what I'd been roasting on Square the hardest for, which to me is unacceptable, that they tried to create this engine, an engine that was designed for open world and for features and aspects that in no way represent the core of Final Fantasy 15. In Final Fantasy. In no way. They tried to shoehorn an FF game into a Western open world format that the West have been using. And I said from day one that 15 has just been used as this mucky testing ground to be able to get this engine that you are creating, Square, by your own admission, simply to compete with the West. So you've used our franchise as a fucking battle arena, and now that they've gone through all of this hideous process, all of the nuggets and gems and benefits that you did manage to acquire from this experience, you're now going to go and pump it into something new, a new IP. Final Fantasy is going to see none of the benefits for it. Final Fantasy has been fucked over. Fucked over, screwed, fornicated upon, defecated. No, not defecated. Defiled, that's the one. And you're doing it to fans who, despite all of this, I don't think you could have got a kinder fan base to do this to. I know Final Fantasy fans can be loudmouthed and very opinionated at times, but I remember to this day when you announced all of this crap, when you delayed it the first time, you know, I remember seeing the like ratio on that. I remember seeing the supportive comments. I'm even seeing them now. You have done the worst shit to one of the nicest fan bases. Take that as you will. I know some of you won't believe it, but I think they are. You've done all of this to them, and from day one, all I've seen is FF fans changing their expectations for you. That they have got on board with all of these new decisions. The amount of people who supported you despite taking it from turn-based to action. I got on board with it. Was that my preference? No, but I got on board with it because I wanted to support your vision. That's what true lore fans have. They put faith in you, despite when they first see it, it might not be their own preference. They say, you know what, I trust you, Square, and I trusted you. And so did all the people who went from liking our overworld maps, and yes, our linear corridors, whether you like it, they were linear. Nothing was ever as big an open world. So many fans got on board with the open world concept and the road trip concept, despite them being massively un-Final Fantasy. As did I. The same with the storytelling format, the same with the character formats, the same with this. It's been just an open willingness from the fans to love 15. It's been a want to love 15. I've wanted to love 15. I've supported you through all of these decisions. I know so many fans have, and just at every turn, I feel like you've slapped us in the face, Square. And I feel like you haven't delivered, and now at the end of it all, it just feels like you're now throwing us on the dumpster pile. Oh my god, what? I'm signing out because I'm going to jump back between optimism and pessimism. That's the whirlwind of feels. As always, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think, and keep your chins up, because I think while it does sound really shit on the surface, there could be some benefits. There could be a good side to this. They could play out the rest of it pretty well. It might not be all as doom and gloom as it immediately feels when news like this hits us, impacts us. And just from what I see about the majority of people's reactions is we've become a fan base who have learnt to deal with these kind of letdowns, with these kind of disappointments, and compartmentalise them and not too emotionally invest in this kind of shit, despite me being very emotive now. Screw up, I'm signing out. There we go, guys. Until the next video. Go! Oh, Tabata. E! Oh, God, he is feeling bad.